Michael here, and in this video journal I'm going to be making bindings for my upcoming guitar builds. So keep watching. Well, it's time to make bindings, and I'm going to be using two different woods to make my bindings out of. The first one is koa. Koa, or Hawaiian koa, has a janka hardness rating of about 1,170 pounds force. Koa is native to Hawaii and is the largest tree species found there. It can reach heights up to about 115 feet, and while quite abundant on the Hawaiian Islands, the majority of the koa forests have been cleared for grazing pastures. Young koa seedlings are edible to grazing animals, so most newly planted koa trees are prevented from growing to a size where they can be harvested for lumber. The other wood that I'm going to be using for making the bindings is this board here, which is called Amazique or Ovangkol or Sedua. It has a hardness rating of 1330 on the janka scale. Of all the three names that this wood is called, no one name stands out in particular, but to guitar makers, Ovangkol is most commonly used. This is an African hardwood used by numerous instrument manufacturers, praised for its tonal quality, coloration, and reasonable cost. And the last piece of wood I'm going to be using is going to be a veneer. This is actually a tulip wood veneer. It's about 1/2 millimeter thick. I'll be cutting it into strips wide enough to go on my boards and laminate them together. And I'll show you how I do all that. I have sawn some Culy Koa and some of this Ovangkol or Amazique, whatever you want to call it, down to about 130 thousandths or so of an inch. And I need to go ahead and sand both sides down so that I can get it thin enough to laminate to my black veneer. I've got some thin strips that I'm going to use for some bindings and some thicker strips that I'm going to also use for bindings and some arm bevel overlays. Some of these I will not laminate. Next step is take it over here to the drum sander and sand these down. Well, I've gotten my koa and my Ovangkol sanded down, and I am about 77 thousandths of an inch on each one of these. And so when I laminate them to my veneer, I should end up with about 98 thousandths of an inch, which would fit nicely in my 90 thousandths of an inch binding channel. So one of the koa strips I will laminate to this piece of black veneer, which is about 24 thousandths of an inch. And the Ovangkol I will laminate to the other sheet. And those two will give me enough to slice up for bindings for at least 3 guitars. And these other two boards will be used for the end stripe at the bottom of the guitar. I'll thin a portion of it down to use for the arm bevel veneer. And also I may use some of this for the rosettes on the inside. I like to keep all of the appointments or the trim pieces on the guitar out of the same wood. And even my little M logo at the top I may make out of these too. And if I don't have enough of this left, I've still got the boards that I've cut them off on. So I've got plenty of material to do those things. Next step is going to be go ahead and set up my glues and clamps and start gluing up these veneers. Okay, I've got my clamp set up and my boards there. All I gotta do is apply some glue and go ahead and start clamping this particular one up. See if that's enough. Alrighty. That's either enough or it's not. Veneer, stick it on its edge. Like this, stick it on its edge. Slide them together. Okay, I will let these dry, probably overnight. Well, I've sliced up the koa, and that's giving me 9 strips. I only need 4 for each guitar, so that gives me 1 spare. Now they measure right now at a little over 5/16. I've got some edges to clean up because I need a really pure edge on each side. So what I'll be doing is bundling these together and running them through my thickness sander until I get them right down to 1/4 inch or slightly over. While I was cutting my binding strips down on the bandsaw, I went ahead and cut a few extra little just spacer boards that I'm going to be using when I do the thickness sanding. And I've taken them and I've lined them up side by side and put the 2 spacer boards on either end and have gone ahead and taped each end together. Now I'm going to run them through my thickness sander so I get them down to a little over 1/4 inch. Well, I've run all of the sandwiches, if you will, through the drum sander, and I've gotten them down to where I need them to be, which is actually about 9/32 of an inch, which of course is 1/32 of an inch over 1/4. That'll give me a little bit to sand down once I install. This little method actually does a really good job of keeping everything together. So these are the Ovangkol. Got a nice grain texture in there. Some different coloration, which will look real nice on the bindings. And then this is the koa. The koa is Culy Koa, so the little curl lines are going to show up real nice on the binding. It should really look good on the guitar. And enough pieces to do 2 guitars. Well, the next step is actually going to be going ahead and bending the sides and then the bindings. I wanted to go ahead and get my bindings made now so that when I have all of my bending materials out, I can go ahead and bend my bindings at the same time. That way later on down the road when I've got the body built and I'm ready to put the bindings on, I don't have to stop and go, wait, I've got to go bend the bindings. So it's just easier to bend them now. Well, that concludes this video journal on how I make my guitar bindings. The next step will be bending the sides and the bindings. I do that at the same time. Please subscribe, hit the notification button, and if you'd like to support the channel, there's a link down below. Thank you all so much for watching.